Hey everyone, Walter Bowne here. So, talking about hills like white elephants, Hemingway's very famous short story published in 1927. So, my wife and I were fortunate enough to travel to Spain on a second honeymoon before children, and here is a statue erected to Ernest Hemingway in Pamplona, dedicated to his popularization of the Festival of San Fermin, the running of the bulls. And so, what I have here is an analysis of Ernest Hemingway's, belief in the iceberg theory, that a little bit is revealed at the top, but the power is revealed at the bottom. So much of Hemingway's work seems simple at the top, but the complexity and the depth and the danger involved and the weight is, of course, at the bottom. If you haven't read the story, please read it. It won't take you that long. We've all been there, right? Relationship. And oftentimes we've overheard a conversation. For instance, this one time my wife and I were in Penn State and we were at a restaurant right there on College Ave, and we heard this couple, and I was eavesdropping. You couldn't help it, right? I'm eating and I'm listening, and my wife's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, I think, they're using words like it and stuff." I'm I'm not really sure what it was, but I'm like, oh my goodness, right? And so what Hemingway does in this brilliant story is capture a moment at a train station. And a train station's always a place of flux, right? It's always a place of coming and going, and they're transient. And so that's why we don't get the dialogue tag so much. We don't get the he said, she said. Because in a conversation that you overhear, you don't really even need that. So the inciting incident where the conflict arises in the story is when the American says, "Listen, it's an awfully simple operation, Jig." And you have to, as a reader, say, "What operation? Why is he using the adverb awful, awfully, and simple," right? Okay, there's something here. And then she looks down, she can't make eye contact, and it causes her, lots of consternation. All right, so that's very, very clear. Of course, it's clear to the couple. Oftentimes, my students have trouble finding out what it is, and then generally at the end of the story, I ask, okay, what is it? And someone will shyly say, "Is it an abortion?" I'm like, yep, that's what it is. So let's first talk about the unfortunate girl who doesn't even have a name, only a nickname, Jig. She is just like a piece of suitcase, really. It's something that is heavy to carry. She is pregnant, and he wants her to get an abortion. All right? Now, of course, this is illegal, and the woman wants the baby. She's looking at the White Hills, right? The White Hills remind her of her belly that's swelling or will be swelling. She looks across the grain and the fields that are fertile, and she wants this baby. And she also wants to keep the guy. She doesn't know Spanish. The guy knows Spanish, but he's an American, and he's always having to translate for her. So we feel for this woman, right? Don't we feel for her? We want to just she's in a no-win situation, because we know he's looking at the bags with all the stickers on it. He's not going to stay in Spain. He's not going to be around. He's young. He goes into the bar at the end of the story and has another drink. He has an Anis del Toro. You know why? Because he's a bull. He's a man. We might even call him a toxic male. He's not doing the right thing. He got this woman pregnant and keeps saying it's awfully natural, right? Think about, he's using the word it's really pretty easy, but Hemingway makes him use the word awful because regardless of what you think about abortion, pro-life, pro-choice, it doesn't really matter. It's still this awful decision that this poor woman has to make. And they just let some air in. That's it. It's just natural. There's nothing natural about this, right? And he keeps saying, oh, you need to do this and I'll be there. You don't have to do it. But we know people who do that. You don't have to do it. This guilt trip, right? And he's like, I'm young. I don't want to be, this is the only thing separating us. That's his opinion. And she looks down at the table and she looks at the legs and she walks to the end of the platform where she stands in the sun. And the truth is there in the sun. And the guy, the American's like, come back here in the shade, right? Come back under my control. Don't go in the sun. Don't go where the truth is. So, when we feel for her in that, does she really know who she is? And she gave herself to this man, this American, and it's just a moment in time. In between, Barcelona, Madrid, they're in this train station. If this story took place any other place, like in their apartment that they share together, in a park, it'd be very different, but it's a train station because they're transients. Other people in the train station are waiting reasonably. They might be going on vacation, they might be going to work. That's reasonable. But he is waiting in a kind of another type of, he is apprehensive and he's trying to get her to have this abortion. And he says, we can have everything. And she says, no, we can't. Yes, we can. Well, what does she mean by that? She means I can't have this baby. But it doesn't matter. I don't care about me. I just want to do what's right for you. And so who's the villain in the story? Right? It's a very good question. But if you think about it, what should this guy do? Right? But we know what he's going to do. And she almost suspects what she's going to do. And she's in a no-win situation. We call that a catch-22. So Hills Like White Elephants makes for a really good radio drama because there's a lot of dialogue. And when you have, a man and a woman speaking, you generally know who is who. And you have the waitress that comes out. And she orders a drink, it's like something we always wanted to wait for, like absinthe, very, very potent drink back in the 20s. It just came back less potent now because of the wormwood or something. I was just reading about it. It's really, really fascinating drink. And it's something that she wants to numb. She's self-medicating. She's drinking beer. They're drinking, and that's all they're doing because that's how she's medicating herself, and that's how she's numbing the pain for this decision that she needs to make. But is she making the decision? Is it her decision to make? Does she feel like she has his support in whatever decision she does? And he says she does, but we know she doesn't because he is very manipulative. So look into the story. There's lots of detail there at the ball. Even the beads. We're in a Catholic country. The beads might be some sort of rosary. I might be stretching it there. But her thinking about, Hills Like White Elephants and thinking about her child, and then what it means to chase a white elephant, something that is not there. It's illusionary, right? So I think Hemingway does a pretty good job here of capturing a woman who is powerless. And oftentimes when a couple is having an argument or there's like the elephant in the room, let's say, the thing that needs to be talked about that's not being talked about, you talk about things like, it tastes like licorice. Oh, that's the way with everything. Everything tastes like licorice. You just make, kind of just banter. It's just conversation that really doesn't mean anything. And you'll like it when I say the hills like white elephants. Oh, I love it. Okay. So they're just dancing around this really, really serious subject because they don't want to talk about it seriously because it will mean, this is a life-altering moment right here. I would say more for the woman than for the guy, even though the guy, that's his child, but he doesn't want it. He doesn't want the baby. And so she is stuck here. And it's like everything tastes bad. Everything's like licorice, and you either love licorice or you hate it. But if everything tastes like licorice, well, that's pretty bad, right? It's like life is just everything tastes bad. So going back to the Penn State thing, I remember the guy was breaking up with the girl, and I think it was the girl's first time. And I don't believe there was anything like a pregnancy involved, but she gave herself to this guy and thought she was in love. And I thought we had something special, and I really wanted to believe in us and all this kind of stuff. And he just left. He may have paid the bill, I'm not sure, but I remember her like being at the table crying. And as a father, as a human being, I wanted to go to her. So listen, I was listening. I didn't mean to listen, but it was kind of, hard not to. And I'm like, you deserve so much better than this. Someone else is going to come along, I promise you. And this guy's a jerk. And this guy obviously was a jerk. I heard a little bit more than my wife did because she was on the other side. But, stories like this can stay with you. So check out Down with Bowne on Spotify, also on YouTube, Walter Bowne, Bowne. And if you have a story you want me to do a little analysis, let me know. I'm always down for new stuff. Take care, everyone. Good night.